can be seen sitting on its behind on a bed. You could argue that there's nothing strange about that. Cats are weird, but it's quite possible that the cat was stressed and afraid of something it can feel but not see. Then a shadow is seen in the hallway and the cat looks over curiously. Another cat is seen peeking in as if to check out what's going on. Not long after, the table to the left of the cat is moved and the door starts to slowly close by itself. Suddenly, the camera is turned towards the wall.
A neighbor named Junked Up Kitten and his friends are exploring an old county jail. They take a video camera with them so that they can make a parody of the Ghost Hunters television series. Little did the small group know that on this night they would accidentally capture actual evidence of real ghosts. Junked Up Kitten wanders around the property with the camera close to his face while narrating. He passes by an ordinary looking jail cell window and doesn't think much of it at the time. When he goes back to review the footage later, he makes a startling discovery in the window. It looks like his parody show has turned out to be the real thing. From the other side of the glass, the colorless reflection of a man's face stares at him. You can clearly see the outline of the ghost's brow, nose, and empty eyes. His head is cocked to the right, almost as if he is sizing up a newcomer. His mouth appears to be a thin, expressionless line. If anything, the ghost has incredible timing. Right when Junked Up Kitten says that he is looking for evidence of ghosts, one just happens to show up in the window. It's almost as if the ghost was trying to make its presence known. Perhaps it was even trying to get a hold of someone who could free it from its miserable cell.
October the 23rd, 2020, an employee at the extract lab distillation room was left unimpressed and a little rattled. While the employee did his duty, a jar of full spectrum distillate was pushed off the table to the left of the employee. It broke, and the poor employee quickly left to get some assistance. He headed to get the help of Dr. John Thompson, the CEO of Extract Lab, who wasn't amused by the situation. The unsettled employee claimed it wasn't a human error, but ghostly interference. He was dismissed, and another one was sent in to clean up the mess. Another jar of distillate is moved towards the edge of the table. The worker sees it before it can fall to the ground and puts it back in place. This is all that was shared on YouTube.
People think of houses, hospitals, or jails when they think about ghost sightings, but some of the most unsuspecting of places can turn out to be the most haunted. This footage was taken in a popular food joint during broad daylight. A shadowy ghost suddenly materializes in a Subway restaurant. It starts out in the shape of a human and almost appears to be getting a table. When it gets back to its seat, the black shadow suddenly changes into a floating black blob of an orb. At this point, an employee or maybe a customer appears to see the ghost in the doorway. Whoever they are, they look stunned for a second and then quickly back away. The shadow orb pays no attention to the human as it floats up to the window and lingers there. It's almost as if it's taking a look at the outside world. The ghost starts to rise even higher and shrinks until it fully disappears back to wherever it came from.
Starts with the person holding the camera asking for cigarettes, and the girl in the video telling him where to find some. When he reaches the bedside table, his friends go quiet, and the girl asks, "Did you hear that?" When asked what she heard, she says there's something outside. What appears to be a white mist moves away from the door. Video ends.
Don't have to wait until nighttime before they can begin to haunt. As this Brazilian soccer footage shows, the crowd is happily cheering on their favorite team when suddenly a shadow ghost starts sprinting through all of them. Look closely and you'll notice how nobody tries to move out of the way. Even though a person is clearly running full speed at them, not a single person tries to pull their legs in or even bothers to look up. They are so concentrated on the game that they do not see, feel, or hear the ghost as it runs directly through the half-filled stadium in a straight line.
Japanese friends were enjoying a night out on the town when they started smelling something bad. At first, they laughed it off. Then, they decided to smoke in an attempt to mask the smell. Eventually, they gave up and left the restaurant, fearing the sushi may be off. However, before leaving, they noticed a pale and sickly looking woman. They commented on how it looked like she had food poisoning. Although they didn't notice at first, the woman had slowly turned her head to look at them, and it was eerie, to say the least. It wasn't the last the group saw of the woman either, and things got worse. She seemed to have followed them to the train station. There, she walked in front of an oncoming train but vanished at the last second, only to appear beneath the train a few seconds later.
A YouTuber named No Ghost Hunter grows tired of living in a haunted home and decides to videotape the disturbances for evidence. It's a little past midnight when he hears scratching noises, which soon progresses into running footsteps and loud bangs. These noises appear to be coming from all different areas of the home at once. The next day, his HD TV literally begins rocking violently from side to side all by itself. The rocking motion picks up speed until the corners of the TV are almost hitting the entertainment center, and it looks like the base is going to break. Then the TV starts rocking back and forth the other way. There is nobody behind the television, and there's no way they could have been using strings to do this. The day after, No Ghost Hunter finds a short video on his phone that he is 100% sure he did not make. The video is shot from the ground level of his kitchen. When you look at the reflection in the oven, you can see that nobody is holding the phone. The phone is literally floating in midair. Additional footage shows the TV shaking by itself again. This time, No Ghost Hunter is able to film behind the television to show that this is not a prank at all. He waves his hand above the television to show that there's no wires, and he even films underneath the base to show that there is no rod coming out from the entertainment center or anything like that. The lights cut out multiple times while he films. A few days later, he captures his refrigerator door slamming open and closed again and again. The brazen poltergeist leaves the door open to make sure its presence is fully known.
Our last video was people divided. It's not a long video and starts with a lady watering plants late at night. Sure, that's a bit weird, but each to their own. Soon enough, a black, shadowy figure can be seen coming into view and standing still. A few orbs can be noticed, which many paranormal believers think is a sign of ghostly activity. If you look closely, it does seem like the figure is walking after the woman in the video and stopping to stare at her.
A group of British friends are playing catch in a courtyard when one of them sees something strange and points it out to the others. The camera follows his gaze and stops on a pale face looking at them from high above. The sickly person looks at them for a second longer before silently slipping out of view. The group is now creeped out and wants to know who has been spying on them this whole time. They tell the property manager about the face they saw in the window, but she says that it's impossible. The room they are talking about has been locked and unoccupied for quite some time. The manager goes up with them to unlock the door and show them around. They try and find the person, but the place is completely empty. There's no way anyone could have been up there, yet the camera obviously says differently. The mysterious peeper has never been identified. Number 5. Old Pete's Ghost. There's a famous pub in Sydney, Australia called the Carlisle Castle Hotel. For years, this local watering hole has been haunted by the ghost of Old Pete, a bitter ex-employee who left the earth quite some time ago, but not his job. His ghostly antics have been caught on camera no less than 3 times. The first time Pete was caught on tape, he was helping a customer. The unsuspecting man opens the door to the cooler when Pete decides to grab 2 bottles of red wine for himself. His ghost grip must have not been too tight though, because both bottles go crashing to the floor. Looking at the footage, there's no way that the shelf gave out or anything like that. The bottles were thrown to the ground with deliberate force with no one nearby. Another incident occurred when the bar was full of witnesses. Everyone is happily enjoying themselves when a hanging red wine glass suddenly dislodges itself and smashes into the counter. Glass shards fly everywhere and the entire bar takes notice. Although this could have simply been a freak accident, what are the chances that, of all the red wine glasses, the one that's directly underneath the server happens to be the one to fall and break? The timing is almost too perfect to be a coincidence. Old Pete strikes again. The third and final tape reveals a glimpse of Old Pete himself. The bar is empty this time when the angry ghost suddenly materializes in front of the security camera. If you look closely, you can make out Old Pete's head at the bottom of the screen. He appears to be waving. Many other bartenders and customers all claim to have seen Old Pete for themselves in one way or another. It isn't uncommon for tapes to turn on by themselves, and the bartenders have seen what they can only describe as strange things while counting down their registers after close. To make this all even stranger, all of the bottles that go crashing to the floor are always high-end red wines. This just so happened to be Old Pete's favorite drink, at least when he was still with the living. Number 4. The Church Disturbance. Steve and Jake are wandering around the woods one summer night with a single goal in mind. They want to explore an abandoned local chapel that's rumored to be haunted. As they approach, they see that someone has written prayers and warnings all over the outside wall. The 2 friends instantly get a bad feeling about this adventure, but they swallow their fear and decide to press on. The rickety main door is locked, so they sneak around back. Already, they don't want to be here much longer. They had explored an old clock tower earlier in the day and were greatly disappointed by a lack of paranormal activity, but they could tell this church is way different. The place looked and felt quite haunted. They go up some wooden steps and enter through the back door. They shine their flashlights deep into the church's main assembly. There's rows and rows of wooden pews ahead of them. They pass by a podium and notice a piano. Then they head deeper inside. Now they find themselves inside of a small maintenance closet. They close the door behind them because they don't want anyone sneaking up on them. It feels like anyone could be watching them right now. They see a ladder to the left. Steve is about to climb it until Jake jokes that a body is going to fall down on him if he does, so he decides not to. That's when the piano starts to play from outside.
Oh no. Oh my god. Turn the light. Listen. Oh shit, that's fucking piano. Is that piano? Come on. Should we go out there? Is that door open? Is that door open?
It's a soft and haunting piano melody that fills the church. Steve and Jake shut off their flashlights and keep recording. They debate whether or not they should go outside or stay here, where it's semi-safe. They realize that they can't spend the entire night trapped in the broom closet of a haunted church, so they turn their flashlights back on to see who is playing. Sitting at the piano at the far end of the room is a black hunched over phantom. They scream and shut the door. Jake cries for a bit, then they run away through the back exit. The music stops as soon as they leave the church. They were hoping that the music stopped because it was over, but in reality, it was because the ghost had gotten up from the piano to chase them. They run a good distance before pausing to look back into the dark scenery. It seems like they've gotten away, but then the ghost finds them and they run away screaming. The camera cuts off as they fall back deeper into the woods. At least one of them survived and uploaded this video onto YouTube, where it's remained for the past 10 years. Number 3. The Teleporter. 2 girls are alone in their house when one of them sees something in the doorway. Pause the video and you can see it's clearly the upper half of a young girl who is dressed in old-fashioned clothes from another time period. She is floating in midair as she curiously peeks in on the 2 children to see what they are doing. One of the girls still doesn't see the ghost. She shouts at something that's on television and accidentally startles the ghost away. The girl with the camera follows the ghost as it retreats. The ghost instantly teleports and now stares at them from the top of the steps. The scared girls run out of the house screaming. They stop only for a second to turn around from the street. They can see the ghost girl walking across the left window on the top floor. It vanishes and then suddenly appears on the bottom floor in less than a second. They scream even louder and take off again. Number 2. Stay out of the attic. Back in 2008, a man started to notice some strange activities around his house. He would often come home from work to find his dogs cowering under the bed, too afraid to come out. One of his dogs would only come out from under the bed for a brief 10 seconds at most before going straight back into hiding. Something was intimidating these large dogs badly. The owner starts to hear banging noises coming from all over his house. He begins to look around. He eventually traces the noise to his attic and goes upstairs with a camera for a closer look. Everything is completely trashed. Boxes are overturned and clothing is scattered everywhere. Something has violently flung all of his personal possessions all around. As soon as he goes back downstairs, he hears another huge bang and runs right back up the steps. He puts the camera down and searches the empty attic for clues. A nearby metal bucket falls over and he runs out of the room before he gets hurt. Another object hits the ground on its own and the camera moves to the right on its own too. The homeowner was too scared to look at the footage. He waited a week before going back upstairs to get his camera. By now, he is understandably quite paranoid. He begins recording everything he does in his home, and it isn't long before he has more paranormal evidence. One day, his radio turns to static and a spirit orb rushes out the window. Later, someone violently jiggles the doorknob to the door that leads to the attic. The door opens and shuts by itself. The radio goes back to normal soon after. Things look to be going back to normal for a second, but then a paper towel roll suddenly flies up from the table to the couch, and the radio starts making more sounds again. The video recording starts to get fuzzy too, as if a ghost is causing electrical disturbances by passing by. Both of his dogs begin to look in the same spot as if they are following something. Whatever it was, the man was never able to physically catch it on film. He was only able to record its strange and oftentimes violent behaviors. Before we get to number 1, if you've ever been curious as to what I look like in real life, then follow me on Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT with underscores instead of spaces. I also have a Twitter at YT_chills where I post video updates. I'd really appreciate it if you followed me, and feel free to send me a DM if you have any questions or suggestions. If you'd like to see more of these videos in the future, then hit that subscribe button because I upload a new scary video every Thursday. Number 1, Ghoul School. This footage comes from somewhere in the Middle East. A group of teenagers are curiously exploring an old school. They go up a flight of steps and pause when they hear a dog whining on the other side of the door. They all run down the steps and gather at the bottom. They're afraid of being attacked by a group of stray dogs now, but they decide to press on and explore the lower areas. The group finds bravery in their numbers and begins to joke and laugh again as they make their way down a long hallway. They open a door and find graffiti on the wall. Other people had been here before them. Maybe this place isn't so bad after all. The teens grow a little more nervous as they continue to poke around. They are laughing less and starting to go silent. Something just isn't right about this section of the building. A YouTuber named Zabin Jaguar translated their comments. He says at this point one of the teens say that their phone shut itself off even though it was fully charged only a moment ago. Another person was able to keep recording, though they probably now wish they hadn't. They enter one classroom in particular and get a dreadful feeling. Suddenly, a figure actually appears out of thin air and walks towards them. The ghost is missing his head, but there's somehow no blood. A loud chanting begins as soon as the ghost walks towards them, but this may be prayers from a nearby mosque. Amazingly, the group all appears to have missed the ghost, which explains why they calmly continue to keep exploring. They wouldn't see the apparition until much later, but when they did, they would never forget what was heading straight towards them in that room. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe because I upload a new scary video every Thursday. Or if you're still not convinced, here are some of our other videos that I think you'd like. Enjoy! If you can summon spirits using a homemade Ouija board, then it stands to reason that a digital version would work just as well. This is what happened to an 18-year-old girl from Lima, Peru when she used a Ouija board app on her smartphone after using the app with her friends to ask just a few questions. Patricia Quispe somehow managed to summon a spirit that apparently followed her home. Soon after playing with the board, her parents noticed that she started to throw violent tantrums and foam at the mouth.
Según testigos, ella presentó una aparente posesión satánica luego de jugar a la Ouija.
Her voice changed too. It became strained and evil as she thrashed about in her restraints. The poor girl often shouted the same phrases over and over again. She would repeat the number 6 3 times in a row, and she would also tell doctors to give her back her phone, presumably so that she could get back on the Ouija app and cause further damage. She was taken to a psychiatric ward to be further examined. Whether she regained her senses or remains internally possessed is the mystery. Number 9. The Summoning. 4 girls are about to witness the power of the Ouija board firsthand. The video begins just as they are receiving an answer to their final question, and they are now ready to end the session. They start to move the cup in a circle 3 times to clear the board, but whatever they have summoned is not exactly ready to leave quite yet.
Okay. Batharda, oh my god! Batharda! What's wrong? Get rid of it! Bathard! Are you okay?
Just before the girls can cast the spirit back into its own dimension, it desperately leaps inside one of them and takes control. Then the possession ends as quickly as it began. They all rush in and one of the girls cradles her friends in her arms as she cries and trembles. They ask if she needs any water. Even though I'm not sure exactly what happened, I think it's safe to say that a glass of water probably isn't going to be enough to help her. Number 8. Stuffed Stare. As this footage from Mexico shows, humans are far from the only things that can potentially become possessed by summoned spirits. In this video, 3 friends are just hanging out together in a cramped room, trying to use a Ouija board to summon whatever spirits they can find. Suddenly, it looks like they attract some supernatural attention. You can't hear any sound, but you can tell things are starting to get interesting by the way they all lean forward and wait for the next answer. The room appears to grow very hot for a moment, and the man in the center rubs some sweat from his brow. As he does this, a white stuffed bear above him springs to life. It appears to look down at the 3 of them, and it especially seems to regard the person on the left the most. The man on the left eventually looks up and the 2 lock eyes. He immediately starts to point out the possessed bear to his friends, but when his friends look up to see what he's talking about, the bear stops moving. It looks like they get in a small argument for a moment as the man tries to convince his friends that he isn't making up a story and that he really did see the bear move. One of them picks up the bear and examines it. It doesn't do anything, so they all sit down with the Ouija board and start over again. When they start to ask another question with the Ouija board, the stuffed toy begins to look around some more. This time it makes no attempt to hide itself as they all turn around and watch in horror. They all jump up from their seats and run out of the room, so terrified that none of them even think to take the camera with them. If you're enjoying the video so far, please give it a like as it really helps me out. Number 7. Homemade Possessions. You don't need to buy an official Ouija board if you want to contact the dead. G-Money Gaming and his friend decided to do it themselves using a Ouija board that they made with a piece of paper and a plastic pointer. Little did they know how effective their design would turn out to be. G-Money begins asking if there are any spirits in the room with them, and he immediately gets a positive response. When he asks how many spirits there are, the answer is 2. By this point, G-Money and his friend are sufficiently scared, but they decide to keep going anyway. G-Money bravely asks the spirits what their names are, and he gets a dreadful response: Zozo and Mama. These 2 spirits are famous for haunting Ouija board users throughout the world, and they are even rumored to possibly be demons with strong ties to Satan.
Zozo. Zozo. Oh my god, dude.
What's that?
What the heck was that? We need to end the session right now.
The Ouija board starts to spell Zozo over and over again in rapid succession, and then something is knocked over from deeper within the house. The two friends know that they have to end the session fast before anything bad can happen, so G-Money quickly moves the pointer over to goodbye. Just when this happens, the pointer slides away as if something had grabbed it. As they back out of the room, the entire board flies at them, and they launch into a full sprint. Number 6, Lisa. A man and a woman manage to successfully summon a female spirit while a third person films. Lisa, the spirit spells Lisa.
Did you push that?
I did not push that.
Seriously, none of you guys pushed that over to the X like that?
Not at all.
No.
You guys doing something underneath the table?
No.
Because that looked like it moved all on its own.
After this, the pointer dashes to the letter X on its own. Neither one of them appear to have pushed the pointer to the letter X. It seems to have moved there completely on its own. The cameraman checks under the table for magnets, but he doesn't find any, and there doesn't look to be any strings. There's a quick cut in the video, so unfortunately we can't exactly hear the next question that they asked. Either way, the pointer circles a bit and lands on yes, and then it darts on its own back to the mysterious letter X for a second time. If this video is to be believed, then why did the spirit repeatedly choose the letter X? Perhaps it could have meant that it was an ex-lover, or on the other hand, the letter X could even represent her death. Exactly what Lisa wanted will never be known. They understandably backed away from the board after the second time that the pointer moved on its own. However, it doesn't look like they properly ended the ceremony, so perhaps Lisa will be back for a second visit after all. Number 5, did you die in the house? Number 5, contact. Prue continues to experience a high concentration of Ouija board possessions, this time in the city of Hyen. Blanca Giovanna is only 16 years old when she and her other friends began to use the board for fun. Like so many others, she is not aware of the board's true danger, and she is swallowed by evil for her ignorance. It's unclear how many times Blanca and her friends used the board to summon demons before she was finally overtaken by one. Maybe she became possessed after using the board just once. Or perhaps it took days of repeated attempts before a demon found its way from the board into her soul. Exactly how the demon got her is unknown, but in other Ouija board possession cases, it's usually either from taunting the spirit or failing to banish them back to their realm at the end of the ceremony. What we do know is that this began a minor possession which soon grew out of control. Blanca went from being a carefree teenager to a violent maniac in just a matter of days. Her behavior became so aggressive that her family eventually could no longer deal with her. They had her committed for a lack of a better idea. While in her possessed form, Blanca continued to amaze and scare psychiatric workers to no end. Her evil antics even began to draw a crowd of curious locals and news reporters, who all agreed that she had seen the face of Satan. When she wasn't trying to attack them outright, she was shouting mysterious satanic phrases and wailing terribly. Like her family, the psychiatric ward eventually ran out of ideas and settled on chaining her to the wall to protect her from others. The demon stayed inside her body for at least 21 days. This was in 2011, and while locals may not know what has happened, no follow-up reports have ever left the city. This lack of information has led many to speculate that perhaps Blanca had to either been exiled or even killed so that the rest of the town could be saved. Number 4, Josh says, this footage comes from a YouTuber named NoBiggieTV, who decided to tempt fate and make a video testing out Ouija boards. He is extremely skeptical at first, and he points out that Ouija boards can't be that scary if they are allowed to sell at Toys R Us. While he is waiting in line to buy it, however, a woman asks if he knows where the idea from Ouija boards came from. She says that the man who invented it sold his soul to the devil, and that making it readily available to kids was part of an evil conspiracy. NoBiggieTV ignores her warning and buys the board anyway. He picks up a friend named Dave and heads to Dave's apartment. After briefly reading some instructions, they are quickly communicating with the dead in no time. They contact a spirit who says his name is Josh. He was born in 1921. Things are getting a little too scary, So No Biggie TV pulls a prank on his friend by pretending to be possessed, and then the two get back to being serious. As the ceremony progresses, they start to hear breathing and other strange thumping noises.
Besides the kitchen and the dog.
The thumping?
No, I hear some kind of breathing. That is so fucking spooky. What the fuck?
Josh tells him that the house is not safe after using the Ouija board, but there is one thing that they can do to possibly change that. Burn me, Josh writes to them. Obviously, no one wants to have a haunted house, so the two friends waste little time doing exactly what Josh asks. They take the board around back and set the entire thing on fire, box and all. As the box burns, Dave's car starts to turn on randomly on its own. Even after they put the fire out, they could still hear the board sizzle. It gave No Biggie TV an electrical shock when he touched it. Unfortunately, they couldn't burn the board properly, so they decided to drive as far as possible and throw it away instead. Although they did say goodbye to the board, nowhere in the video does it show them properly ending the session. Just how angry Josh will be that they didn't follow his exact orders remains to be seen. Number 3, the pizza possession. Jackson Combs and his friend Stacy are bored late at night when they decide to summon some spirits to help pass the time. They are joined by a third friend, Alice, who brings with her the top of a pizza box. Together they use it to make a homemade Ouija board. It's well past 1 in the morning by the time the three of them agree on a place to use it. They use a small cap as a pointer and spin it in 3 circles to clear the board. Then they begin. Is anybody there? Jason asks. The pointer does not move, so he repeats himself. That's when the cup moves down into the left, stopping on yes. Jason asks what the spirit's name is, and the ghost writes back Susan. When asked if the spirit is good or bad, Susan says that she is good. Then she says that she wants someone named Danny. None of them know who Danny is, so Susan says goodbye. The 3 friends could have stopped here, but they enjoyed the experience, so they decided to keep it up and try to contact other spirits. Again, they make 3 circles with the cup to clear the board. Another spirit soon makes itself known, but this time it isn't as nice as Susan. Instead of asking what the spirit's name is, Jason asks if it's a good spirit. It signals that no, it is not. They could have immediately discontinued contact from there, but they weren't feeling threatened enough at the time. Jason asks for its name. John, it writes back. What do you want? Jason asks out loud. Kill is the response that he is given. Even though no other questions are asked, the cup suddenly moves to the no answer and flips over. The 3 of them hear a noise coming from the bathroom, and Jason goes inside to investigate. The door shuts behind him and the house fills with his screams. When the girls are able to get the door open, he is cowering in the corner. Whatever had been summoned had viciously attacked him. Number 2, Japanese TV. These 3 girls playing with a Ouija board seem to be on some sort of Japanese television show. This isn't very surprising since some of the scariest evidence of the paranormal seems to come from Japanese game shows or investigation series. The girls have apparently been threatened by the spirit to not film this encounter, but it's clearly not their decision. The board or spirit threatens to curse the girls and they are understandably shaken up. It doesn't take long for all hell to break loose after this. One of the girls claims to see a woman and the group jumps, leaving 2 of the 3 young girls on the floor. In their panic, the quarter they were using as the planchette begins to move swiftly on its own. Furniture in the room begins to fly around as if being thrown, and a strange loud clicking can be heard. The footage becomes more and more chaotic before the video ends, leaving the viewer with concern and a desire for more insight. Before we get to number 1, if you've ever been curious as to what I look like in real life, then follow me on Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT. I also have a Twitter at YTChills where I post video updates. I'd really appreciate it if you followed me, and feel free to send me a DM if you have any questions or suggestions. Number 1, mass possession. The Elsa Perea Flores High School in Peru is said to be incredibly haunted. According to local rumors, the school was built on a gravesite that the mafia used to bury corpses. In May of 2016, a group of school children used a Ouija board to summon the spirit of one of the dead victims, and this footage showed it absolutely worked. Shortly after using the Ouija board, at least 20 students were all affected by a mass hallucination. The children fell to the ground and went into seizures as they vomited. They were uncontrollable and had to be loaded into trucks and driven to the hospital for examinations. In the weeks that followed, almost 100 other students fell victim to the same mysterious condition. They would be acting normally one moment and then on the ground having a full-blown seizure the next. It was always on school property. In fact, it wouldn't be uncommon for students from different classes to pass out at the exact same time. Many of the students complained about the same evil spirit attacking them, a man dressed in all black with a big bushy beard. He always wanted to hurt them, they said. It also wasn't uncommon for the children to hear voices and feel relentlessly stalked, like someone was gonna come up from behind and snatch them at any moment. One of the students even claimed to have felt a large pair of hands tighten around her neck. You would think that they could somehow fight back, but high school ends earlier in Peru than most other countries. As such, these were all children between the ages of 11 and 14. They were all completely helpless and unable to defend themselves. The school officials eventually sought the help of Catholic priests to perform exorcisms and to hold mass. Unfortunately, none of this seems to have helped very much. According to the latest reports, whatever was unleashed by the Ouija board continues to haunt the poor school kids to this day.